mundane level, it's the difference between being cool and being a hothead. It really is. At its most mundane level, it's the difference between being cool and being a hothead. It really is. It is this hot and cold that is here as well. To be cool, the reasonable desire, is ultimately a goal that can be achieved and progress can be attained. But the unreasonable desire, it leads to a burning of energy, and that burning of energy leads to dilemma. That if you could call the genetic information, that you could see it being written out in sentences, that the capitalization of the first letter of a sentence, that this is the 41st gate. In other words, it really is at the source of all processes. And the 41st gate in the root center, in its relationship to its stream, to the 30th gate, the 36th gate, the 35th gate, that this is known as the human experiential way, and that all human experience originates out of the 41. It is the limitation of resources which maximizes the development of potential. And this is us. There is this limitation of resources, but in fact, rather than this being a problem for us, it actually adds to our development, adds to our potential. The 41st gate is a gate of fantasy. And it is a pressure. It literally is the pressure to enter into new experience, to gain experience in the world. And it is a pressure that pressurizes the emotional system and pressurizes the 30th gate. That is, it pressurizes feelings, it pressurizes desire, and it is this very power to pressure desire that makes the 41st gate so powerful. If you look at the very first line, which is at its source, you see that this is the appropriate delegation of responsibility, the imagination to make the very best out of very little. Now, what's interesting about this imagination to make the best out of very little, or the limitation of the resources that lead to maximization. In other words, everything about the human experience is that it takes much more than just our basic setup to get through this life. In other words, that nothing is a given for us, and that if we don't use our imagination, if we are not creative in our process, then we're going to have enormous difficulties on the human experiential way. It's also about recognizing something else, that it doesn't mean that there are experiences that we can all do, and that there are many experiences that it's better to dream of, read of, see a movie about, than enter into that experience itself. And one of the things to see about the collective process of the 41, it's for the collective human experience. It does not mean that each ingredient has to go through the whole experiential mix. One of the advantages of the human experiential way is that when you get to its finality, that is, when you get to the close of its process, it is all about reflection, and through that reflection, the ability to store as history, as the history of experience, those experiences that have been accomplished, that are those experiences that can guide us successfully towards our future, and yet at the same time not be the kind of experiences that everybody needs to fulfill. And this is the real theme about the delegation of responsibility, and something to understand about desire. To desire something that is reasonable doesn't mean it's easy, but that it's reasonable. It's much more important than desiring many, many things that are deeply unreasonable. There are others who will be able to move their way through that experience and benefit others through the knowledge of it. And that you yourself, despite your dreams, that you'll be able to have access to those experiences that you will never in your life be able to accomplish, and yet still have the benefit of being able to take in that knowledge. It's about coolness, or it's about the hothead. If the desire is reasonable, one can stay cool. And if the desire is unreasonable, then one explodes, and one explodes with feelings, and the result is a negative. Everything about the 41st gate is the importance of understanding the beauty of imagination. Not just your own imagination, but to take advantage of the gifts of others. That there are experiences that you do not have to achieve personally. And as long as your desires are reasonable, then you're going to be able to fulfill the potential of your 41st gate, to start something that is correct for you and to get to its proper conclusion. The 42nd gate, increase. And the 42nd